Societies are held together by similar religious beliefs. We still find societies, particularly in the Middle East, that are held together by those shared religious beliefs. Iran is Shia Muslim. Saudi Arabia is Sunni Muslim. Shared beliefs making society possible. Excellent, good. Any other functions?
Life after death.
Life after death, I mean, that's related to that whole concept of confronting our own morality, yeah. And it reassures us that it's not the end. You will see your loved ones again as you suffer their loss. What else? Other functions? Yeah.
A lot of people use it to rationalize conflicts between nations.
Well, yeah, it's a way in which we can have one nation struggle against another one and take it over. The attempt to have your culture dominate. That enthusiasm that religion gives you gives people willingness to go out there and die for the cause. We see that right now with ISIS. They are wackos, but they are willing to die for their cause. And that gives them an effective, functional superiority over people who think, no thank you, I'm not dying for the cause, I'm running away. Yeah, good. Any other functions? Other functions. One, it's a primitive form of science. It explains things. The Greeks would look to the heavens and see the sun and think, Apollo carrying a fiery globe. I mean, that's proto-science. What we know is that an awful lot of science initially grows out of religious activities. The Middle Ages, the monks, and chemistry grows out of the activities of the various monks and that kind of thing. So, it explains things. What you should fear from this is that there are a lot of functions that religion performs. And again, that's why Durkheim thinks it's so widespread. All right, any questions on this? Okay, cool. All right. Now, let's talk about Marx. Marx is easy. We've already talked about Marx's theory of religion. What is religion for Marx? The opiate of the masses. What does that mean? We talked about it previously, really briefly, in that discussion of Marx's concept of ideology. What does it mean? That religion is the opiate of the masses. Yeah.
It's for the poor, like for the 1%. That's what he's talking about, right? To kind of justify, like, the 1% benefit to the lower class.
Okay, and 1% is attempting to do what with the lower classes? You're on the right track. Let's see if you can square with that. You got it. I know you got it. It's just finding the words for it.
It's to keep the lower class in control and have the upper class have all the power.
Exactly. It is a weapon. It is a whip. It is a gun. More accurately, it is a drug to keep the lower classes doped up and unwilling to do what Marx thought any poor, suffering person should do. And what is that?
Rise up.
Revolt! Okay. Yeah, rise up. So, they get told you're going to heaven as long as you toe the line. As long as you do what you're told, you'll get pie in the sky when you die. It's a drug. The upper classes use to keep the lower classes in their place. Now, that's a really simplistic understanding. Remember, Marx is never so much wrong as too simplistic. Is it pretty obvious that religion in some context has been used as a form of drug, as an ideology, to keep the lower classes in their place? It's silly to deny it. Of course it has. But is that the heart, the secret of religion? No, I think Durkheim is much more effective in this area. But let's give Marx a little bit of credit, because he's not so one-sided, so simplistic. He does appreciate a little bit of the complexity of religion. Not a lot. I'll grant you that. Not a lot, but at least a little. Because if you read the full quote in which that's found, it says, the opiate of the people, it's sometimes translated the opiate of the masses. Religion is the sigh of the oppressed creature, the heart of a heartless world, and the soul of soulless conditions. It is the opiate of the masses. Listen to Marx. Boy, that guy could write. mean, that sounds like poetry to me. It is the sigh of the oppressed creature, the heart of a heartless world, the soul of soulless conditions. It is the opium of masses. Marx feels the suffering of people. And before the Industrial Revolution, Marx thought it was simply impossible, given the low level of productivity, for everybody to have a good life. There wasn't enough food, there wasn't enough clothing, there wasn't enough housing, books, jewelry, all that kind of stuff, that everybody could have a decent life. Therefore, somebody had to what?
Go without?
Go without. Somebody had to suffer. And in that case, religion helps relieve the suffering. In that sense, of what you had suggested, even, is here in Marx as well, that religion is helping people adjust to difficult circumstances. And that's exactly what Marx is saying with it. But Marx thinks that that is largely a function of the lack of productivity of the previous kind of society. Before the Industrial Revolution, there just wasn't enough stuff. But, Marx says, with the Industrial Revolution and the incredible productivity of those factories, now there's enough to have everybody have a decent life if it was just shared equally. And so religion is no longer necessary. I mean, again, that's pretty naive, but at least it's still more complicated than the first take on Marx's concept of religion. Yeah.
Oh no, you kind of finished off with me, and I was going to say from this quote, he seems pretty pro-religion.
Yeah, it does sound pro. Remember, however, that opium, what is opium? Oh, it's a drug, I know. But is there a medical use for opium?
Yeah.
Do we use opium every day in this country? Well, not opium, but a derivative of it. What's it called? Codeine, morphine.
Yeah.
Those are drugs used for the relief of what? Pain. They are still some of the most effective drugs in pain relief. And so Marx is not really saying this is a horrible drug keeping people under control, but rather that it is a means of pain relief. In that sense, Marx is also a little more complicated when we really explore in depth the nature of that quote. Very famous quote by Marx. All right, is that anything else?
Yeah, it was because it's kind of interesting because Marxist, there's a good amount of Marxists that are atheists, so
Yeah. Well, Marx was an atheist, and he thought, again, because of the incredible productivity, we could have a good society so that suffering was no longer inevitable. But he did have some kind of appreciation for religion as well. Okay, any questions on Marx? Pretty simple. Pretty simplistic. Now, the next one, we can never accuse of being simplistic, and that's Weber. Weber is always complicated, nuanced, cynical. So, Weber's going to turn this discussion on its head, because so far both Marx and Durkheim agreed on one thing, and that is that religion was the dependent variable they wanted to explain. Where does religion come from? Durkheim's explaining it. Forms a function. Where does religion come from for Marx? It's a drug used by the upper classes to keep the lower classes in control. Weber is going to do the opposite of that. Instead of religion being the dependent variable, for Weber, religion becomes the independent variable used to explain where the Industrial Revolution comes from. That revolution we have come back to over and over again because it is the beginning point of sociology. And when you study society, you recognize that one of the greatest changes, if you factor in the amount of time which it took place, the greatest change in human history was that Industrial Revolution. How come? Well, Weber tries to answer a mystery about that, a couple of mysteries. First, the Industrial Revolution was the rise of capitalism, the making of money through the use of technology. Okay. You might expect, therefore, that the Industrial Revolution would take place first in the country with the most advanced technology. Going back 500-600 years, anybody know what country on earth was the most advanced technological culture?
Britain.
Pardon?
Britain.
A lot of people, I just...
Britain.
What?
Wasn't it Britain?
I can't hear.
Britain.
Britain, not yet.
How many years ago?
500-600 years ago.
China?
Bingo! Very nice. Yeah, China. It is even said still today, there's only one man-made structure that you can see from space, and that is the Great Wall of China. That was an incredible engineering feat done hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years ago. Who invented gunpowder? Who discovered the compass? China. Yeah, the most advanced technological nation on earth was China 500-600 years ago. Yet the Industrial Revolution did not take place in China. It took place where? Britain. Now, remember, capitalism in this Industrial Revolution is the making of large sums of money through the use of technology. Therefore, if it wasn't the most technologically advanced country on earth, you might expect it to be the country that was richest. 500 or 600 years ago, however, what was the richest country on earth? In other words, what was the dominant world power 500-600 years ago that had more wealth than any other country?
Spain.
Very good. I usually have to give a hint by asking, what's the name of the city we're sitting in? El Cajon, or La Mesa, or San Diego. That ain't Anglo stuff, and it's not Native American. What is that? Spanish. What was the dominant world power 500-600 years ago? Spain. They controlled most of the New World, and they ripped off everything that wasn't tied down. And the jewels, the gold, the silver of the Aztecs, the Incas, end up in Madrid, making Spain the richest country on earth. Was that, however, where the Industrial Revolution took place? No, as you said, Britain. And the second country, this one is much more surprising. Most people know the Industrial Revolution first took place in Britain. But it also spread after that to the Netherlands. Holland. Huh. What do those two countries share in common? Britain and the Netherlands. Probably most of you have no idea.
Oh, you have seen.
What?
No, the Protestant Ethic.
They are Protestant countries. The most famous essay Weber ever wrote was one called The Protestant Ethic in the Spirit of Capitalism. Weber argues that the Industrial Revolution, the growth of capitalism, was due to the Protestant revolution, the Protestant religion. Let's see how much you know about religion. Most people in this country are Christians. The largest number of Christians in the United States are Protestants. The second largest number of people in this country are Catholics. What do you know about Protestantism and its relationship to Catholicism?
They're both Christians.
They are both Christians. Very good. Which one is the parent religion?
Catholicism.
Catholicism is the parent religion. And Protestantism grows out of Catholicism as a what? As a... Exactly, as a... As an angry insect? Protest ant. Okay. It is a protest against the Catholic Church. Who's the most famous Protestant? Martin Luther. He was a Catholic priest who tacked a series of protests on a church wall in Worms, Germany. What was he concerned about?
Church taking money?
Church taking money for what?
Not noble causes.
I don't remember the exact name, but wasn't it as a forgiveness of
Indulgences.
indulgences?
Yeah. What you've got to know for the doctrine of Catholicism is, well, both